Hey, what's up, lightboltjoe here. Today we are going to discuss the 1988 film. There's a musical number at the end, so we'll call it a musical. Big Top Pee Wee. So this this is, how do I explain this? Paul Rubens is the main actor who plays the character of Pee Wee Herman, right? And I had to look this up. He originated the character in a stage troupe, but he was more adult humor. And then eventually he toned it down, and there was a TV film in '81 about Pee Wee Herman, and then there was the '85 Tim Burton Danny Elfman combo film Pee Wee's Big Adventure, which then launched Pee Wee into the stratosphere, and then '86 started the Pee Wee Herman Pee Wee's Playhouse show, which lasted till '91, and this film came out in '88, and then there was a hiatus because of scandals. And then in 2016, Pee Wee came back with Pee Wee's Holiday or something like that on Netflix. We did talk about that. I remember. Did we talk about that? I remember seeing it. I don't know if we talked about it. And I don't think I've seen the whole 1985 Pee Wee's Big Adventure, unless I did and I just don't remember. I like the character. I don't love the character. I think he's annoying. I always thought he was annoying. I do appreciate the character in regards to the pop culture aspect, because a lot of stuff is referenced in a Pee Wee Herman mindset. And millennials specifically love Pee Wee because of the Eminem Slim Shady kind of, not Slim Shady, yeah, Slim Shady song, music video of him impersonating Pee Wee. So it's very interesting. It's a very interesting concept. It's very interesting within pop culture. It's very interesting within longevity. The character is still going strong all these years later. Kudos to the character. This film was bad compared to other Pee Wee stuff. This brought more on the adult humor aspect rather than the kid humor aspect, and it's interesting because also this is a different production company. The 1985 film was from Warner Brothers, and this '88 film, Big Top Pee Wee, is Paramount. So Danny Elfman did the music in both films, but, and I just read this, he couldn't use the same score that he did in, or similar themes of the score that he did in the '85 film, because it was contractually signed off by Warner Brothers. So he couldn't use Warner Brothers music, quote unquote, in the Paramount film, even though he himself wrote it. Very interesting how that works. Contracts, man. It's very interesting. So this film, very quick, hour and a half. Pee Wee is now a agro farm scientist. There's a term. I don't remember the term. So he has now a talking pig, and he lives on a farm, and he has this greenhouse where he's growing hot dog trees and stuff, right? And so he's in a very small rural neighborhood who doesn't like him because he's weird, he's different. And then a storm comes, and Pee Wee brings all his animals into the, a storm shelter, and then when he comes back, there's a circus on his lawn. And so the circus blew in with this storm. Okay, fine, whimsical enough. And then it's just a matter of, he's got a fiance, Winnie, but then he starts to have a crush on this gymnast, Gina, trapeze artist, aerialist, Gina, who he then has an actual affair with. And then Winnie freaks out, and then she winds up dating her brothers, the aerialist's brothers. It's not a kid's film anymore. You're talking about adultery, you're talking about all these different things. There was a horrible hermaphrodite joke in this. There's very interesting with using the animals. A lot of animals were in this, and it's different because you wouldn't do stuff now. Massive animal rights stuff has transpired within the last 30-something years compared to late '80s when this came out. So there's a hippo, there's lions, there's a giraffe, there's elephants, there's various farm animals, there's monkeys, there's a lot of domesticated and non-domesticated animals within this film. And I'm very curious what happened behind the scenes, because there's no way that those animals were treated as they should have been treated, in regards to why there are no more giant circuses anymore with animals. There's circuses with talent in regards to tricks and human talent, but not so much animal anymore. Rightfully so. Shouldn't be using an animal for entertainment. So aside from that, it was hard to watch this with that adult tone to it, with the watching these animals being forced to do tricks when you know that they are not enjoying themselves. It was just an awkward experience watching this, and it shouldn't have been. But again, it's an odd representation of this character who was brought within a kid aspect because we're 2 years in, right? If this came out in '88 and his show Pee Wee's Playhouse started in '86, the benefit of that show was that it was whimsical, it was fantastical, it was fantasy. It's not reality. And to have him play a scientist farmer who then is cheating on his fiance with an aerialist and then wants to join the circus, it's not fantasy anymore. You're dealing with adult content, which is just not what the character turned into. The character then was reverting back to the original adult innuendo. I don't know. I thought it was weird. I thought it was very strange. Very boring at times, which is unfortunate. And then certain things, of course, reminded me of American Horror Story Freak Show, but I can never compare anything circus related to. I can never not compare anything circus related to American Horror Story Freak Show, especially with Ruth and Dot. You know, Ruth and Dot, as those characters in Freak Show, are based off of actual real life twins, Siamese twins, conjoined at the hip twins. The characters in the show are vastly different. They're combined more on the chest rather than the hip. But to have the same Ruth and Dot characters in this was interesting. Having a smaller person doing their ringling kind of brother ringmaster tricks. We've seen that in a lot of stuff, especially Greatest Showman. So I don't know. It's interesting watching circus stuff after you learn about the history of circus stuff. It's interesting. I like that whole outcasts bound together aspect. I like that found family aspect. I appreciate that. I respect that. I love that. But I don't see how projects moving forward can divert from that glorification of what we did back then. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be very interesting. I know Greatest Showman's supposed to be a Broadway show, so I'm very curious what they do with that. I'm very curious what they do with a sequel film. So that was a fantastic movie in itself, that musical that it was. It's interesting. This film shouldn't have got me to think as much as it did, but it did. So it's interesting. And I've used interesting a lot by saying that word numerous times within this conversation that we're having. I don't know why, but it's a great word. It's a great word. It's a great representation and encompassment of all of my thoughts towards this particular project. I didn't really like it. It got me thinking more than it should have. But hey, some things happen that you just don't expect, and you just gotta ride the wave and see where the roller coaster takes you. Eventually, you'll land back to the station. On to the next review. Mucho mahalo.